either FBI or DNI give any information regarding the briefing, the classified briefing they're going to give lawmakers regarding the Russian investigation? Did that come up?
We did not discuss that.
Did they give any updates on the efforts to escape election officials' security clearances? Can you give us any updates on that process?
Yes, there's ongoing efforts to make sure that state election officials do have the right clearances. There's been progress made there, but that's going to be an ongoing effort to get more individuals cleared. But there have been, there's been, I would say, modest progress being made, so that at least identifying one election official in each state, get them cleared, and then additional visitors cleared as is needed and as practical.
You said there were questions about Russian interference going forward. Was there any confirmation of active interference efforts by either Russia or any other country in the midterms?
There's definitely active interest and effort to try to influence or interfere with elections. Well, using, not getting into specifics, but using all source intelligence, there are multiple indicators, not only here, but across the other democracies, that there's likely Russian interest and effort to influence the election.
Is Russia the only actor at this point that you think might try to influence the midterms?
In terms of the techniques that they're employing, are you seeing an evolution in the techniques, whether that's social media meddling or trying to compromise voting systems in any way?
Again, it's been known from not just one thing, and we expect that that's something that is going to be used. And by the way, one of the reasons I think why the Russians haven't backed off the degree that I would like to see them, we all would like to see them back off, is that the administration has not taken harsh enough steps to impose harsh enough sanctions to make it hurt, to make sure that the Russians get the message that there's going to be a cost imposed on them for interfering on elections, and that's going to come, that needs to come from the president and the administration to really step up the harsher sanctions. The Congress already passed harsher sanctions, and I'd like to see us do more, but ultimately it's going to have to come from the top, it's going to have to come from the president. There needs to be more to send that message, concrete steps to impose a cost and impose pain on the Russians for interfering in our elections, and that has not happened.
I'm going to try to ask a question Nielsen. Where do you want me to? Do you want me to go over there? Why don't I go over there? I think we're going to have to wait until they're done before we can do our election.
I'm Michael McCall, Chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. With me is Secretary Nielsen. We had a classified briefing on election security with the Secretary, the FBI Director, and the DNI Director, Coates. It was a very full discussion, answering all questions. And let me just first say that in October of 2016, I was briefed in a classified setting by Secretary then Jay Johnson and Director Clapper on the Russian threat and Russian meddling in our elections. I can tell you it was very clear and convincing evidence that it in fact did occur in the last presidential race, and I think Congress, as I called upon then, had a responsibility to act and respond to this act of aggression by a foreign adversary. What the response was the Russian sanctions bill, which is a very tough sanctions package that for the first time did not even include a national security waiver in it. So with that, I just want to commend the Secretary, who's been up on the Hill multiple times to give classified briefings and open setting briefings. She just testified before my committee on the issue and has been very available to members of Congress to help us as we move forward, because as we look forward into the midterm elections in 2018, our concern is that not only Russia, but possibly other foreign adversaries are now going to start looking at how they can meddle in the midterm elections. And we need to be prepared. We were caught off guard last time. We need to be prepared moving forward in the midterm 2018. And I have every confidence that the Secretary and the Department of Homeland Security, through its cyber operations, will be able to protect the voting machines and protect American democratic process. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to the Secretary.
Well, good morning. First, I wanted to just start by thanking Chairman McCall for his continued support of the Department of Homeland Security. His commitment and his leadership is greatly appreciated by all of us who seek to secure the homeland, so we thank him for that. This morning was a culmination of a series of briefings. We will continue to do them. As the Chairman said, we have taken opportunities to brief at classified levels. I've had a hearing that focused particularly on election security. What we wanted to do today was make sure that members of Congress who were able to attend understand the different roles that the federal government is playing. So as you know, we all act in support of state and local governments. The responsibility for election security remains with state and local governments, but we seek to be their partners in all ways possible. So we had a twofold objective today. One, to clarify the role of DHS, DNI, and FBI. DHS has a federal lead for securing our critical infrastructure when it comes to elections and other critical infrastructure. The FBI has lead on countering foreign influence, which we hear a lot about and is part and parcel to this conversation about the integrity of our elections. And then the DNI provided our general threat understanding, threat overview of not just Russia, but other foreign actors that might be seeking to do us harm by undermining our electoral processes. At the end of the day, we all share one very important goal, which is that Americans' votes must count, and they must be counted correctly. So we're working with our state and local partners to do that. As part and parcel to that, the second major objective of this morning was to ask Congress to help us with raising that awareness, to work with their state and local officials within their states, to ensure that the state and local officials have what they need, whether they take advantage of the many offerings that DHS provides, or whether they're using third parties, or whether they're growing organic inherent capability. We did provide to members today a full resource guide. DHS has many offerings that we are providing state and locals, everything from exercises to information sharing to hygiene scans, vulnerability assessments. We've created governance structures, partnerships. We're here to help. So we are continuing to have the conversation, see what state and locals need, and make sure that we can respond and help them as best we can. What I can tell you is that we all remain committed. This is a national security issue. As I've said before, we take it very seriously. There is nothing more important than the integrity of our democracy, and I hope that we can all work together to ensure that we have just that, the integrity of our electoral system. So with that, I think we can take a few questions.
Secretary Nielsen, how confident are you right now that if an outside actor does try to tamper with vote totals in November, that you'll be able to detect that in real time?
So I think we're doing a couple things. First of all, I can assure you we are doing everything we can. What we're really encouraging states to do is think about it from an auditability and a redundancy perspective. So if there's any question, we want to make sure we can go back and verify the results. So real time, we will be deploying people. We're working with state locals. We have ways to real time through machine intelligence understand threat indicators as they're introduced into the systems. But we also want to make sure at the end of the day, if any questions are raised, we either have paper ballots or we have auditing systems that can assure us that the results are valid.
Secretary Nielsen, do you think the president calling everything involving Russia a witch hunt and talking about no collusion, no interference, that kind of thing, dampens the message you're trying to send that this is a big problem and that Congress and the states do need to take this very seriously?
I don't. I think the president's been very clear that he agrees with the intel community that the Russians did attempt to hack or otherwise through cyber means influence our election. And he remains committed. That's why we're here today, to make sure that his administration is doing everything we can to address that.
Secretary Nielsen, to that point, do you have any reason to doubt the January 2017 intelligence community assessment that said it was Vladimir Putin who tried to meddle in this election to help President Trump win?
I do not believe that I've seen that conclusion.
The
What I
January
do,
2017 assessment.
that the specific intent was to help President Trump win, I'm not aware of that. But I do generally have no reason to doubt any intelligence assessment.
Secretary Nielsen, so much of the focus in the 2016 investigations has been on social media manipulation, and the intel community has insisted that no ballots were changed. Do you have any reason to think that the 2018 manipulation would look any different than some social media manipulation and no ballots being changed?
I think we,
Just face the camera a little more.
sure.
Thank you.
I think we remain concerned, certainly on the foreign influence side. I mean, we've seen that continually, as you know, whether it's after events in Syria or after events in England recently. We see that continuing. So the FBI will continue to hunker down on that. With respect to election infrastructure, we do remain concerned the capability remains of foreign adversaries to attempt to use their cyber capabilities to affect the election. So that's why we're putting in layers and layers of security. And I just want to comment quickly back on this one. I want to be very clear on this. What we have seen the Russians do is attempt to manipulate public confidence on both sides, right? So we've seen them encourage people to go to a protest on one side. We've seen them simultaneously encourage people to go to that same protest on the other side. So I think what they're trying to do, in my opinion, and I defer to the intel community, is just disrupt our belief and our own understanding of what's happening, right? It's an integrity issue of who is saying what and why, and how that may or may not affect an American's behavior and what they believe.
But Putin, that assessment did say that Putin tried to orchestrate a cyber campaign with the intention of helping Donald Trump.
Please talk to the cameras.
Do you have any disagreement with that?
I do believe that Russia did and will continue to try to manipulate Americans' perspective on a whole variety of issues.
Yeah, if I could
In terms of the ongoing election, are you seeing specific efforts by Russia or other actors to get involved in specific races in the midterm elections?
I will just defer to the intel community on that, but right now we have no intel that there's a particular race of interest.
More
Thank you, guys.
to follow up on
You
that,
said
to follow up on
adversaries,
that more
plural.
generally,
Can you
Madam
talk about-
Secretary, to follow up on that, is there evidence that Russia's trying to influence the election in general in 2018?
We see them continuing to conduct foreign influence campaigns, so yes, that's what FBI has lead on. But I think unfortunately we can safely say in this day and age that any nation state that has a capability of any sort to attack us through cyber means, it's our responsibility to be prepared for that.
You said adversaries plural.
I did.
Who else are you watching? Who else is DHS or the intel community concerned might be trying to interfere in this next election?
I think we see multiple countries, and the intel community can speak more broadly to this, that do have the capability to do this. So we think about China, we think about Iran, we think about Russia. So we're continuing to watch. I mean, any nation state that has the capability, I think we would be very naive if we made an assumption they just wouldn't use it. So we need to be prepared.
Madam Secretary, the FBI and the DNI have agreed to give a briefing to lawmakers regarding confidential classified information, including potentially the FBI source in the Russia investigation. Does that compromise, from your point of view, any kind of security issues regarding homeland security with compromising sources that you depend on and rely on?
The intel community is very careful, as you know, in any briefing not to in any way endanger their sources. But on that particular one, I defer to them. They know much more about the sources and the danger and relative risks to making sure we're being transparent. We're also protecting our intel.
Congressman, do you have a view on that, Mr. Chairman?
No, I mean, there's an Inspector General investigation into that matter, and I think that's what the director will tell you on that. I think their ultimate objective here, Russia and other foreign adversaries, is to create chaos and undermine our confidence in our democratic system. Not that they're necessarily picking sides. I think they're just trying to create ultimate chaos by getting involved in this campaign information warfare that we saw take place in the last election. Of course, members of Congress are concerned about direct threats to them going into 2018 and abilities to manipulate information going forward. And so I want to thank the Secretary and the Department for its hard work to help protect the integrity of our election system and provide the security necessary. I think it's important to note, I think as pointed out earlier, none of the votes were changed. Most of the voting machines are unplugged from the internet, which gives a safeguard of protection from the internet cyber influence. The data rolls possibly could be manipulated. We're worried about that moving forward. But I feel confident that Chris Krebs, who heads up MPPD, it's a cyber unit, and the Secretary will do everything within their power to protect our system.
Mr. Chairman, are you worried at all? We were told only maybe 40 or 50 members attended this briefing. Are you worried that your colleagues may not be taking this seriously enough?
Well, it wasn't 8 o'clock, so it definitely seemed like colleagues. Yeah, they've been talking a lot about this issue. We were a little surprised that not as many showed up, but everybody who did was given full opportunity to ask any question they wanted. I thought the witnesses gave very full responses to all the questions. So, again, I think we've seen a lot of cooperation, both the DHS, FBI, and DNI, to provide Congress with the information we need moving forward to protect the 2018 midterm elections.
If I can follow up on that, there's been a lot of criticism of the Obama administration that they didn't raise the alarm loud enough before 2016. Do you think you are raising the alarm loud enough now?
I have, and I think the Secretary has as well. I go back to that 2016 October Gang of 8 briefing I had. At the time, I encouraged them, to the administration and Obama, to come forward and call out the Russians for what they were doing, and that there should be consequences to their interference. Unfortunately, that was not done. I think we're seeing them called out now by the Congress with sanctions, and very harsh sanctions, as well. So I think the more the Secretary talks about this, and myself, to raise public awareness that it is in fact happening. I prosecuted the Johnny Chung case, which led to the Director of Chinese Intelligence influencing our elections. This is nothing new. They just have a new tool, and it's the internet, to influence and meddle. And so I think we have to be very, very aware and cautious and move forward to protect our American democratic system.
Thank you.
Guys.
I'm not aware. I'm not aware of that.